Just as human populations tend to flock to bodies of water, so do plants, which gives us the definition of the riparian zone. The riparian is simply the area of vegetation that accompanies a body of water. What makes the riparian significant is that it contains up to 3/4 of all plant species in a given area. That could be a small area, like here in Tehachapi, or we could broaden it to California, and we can broaden it to the earth, just as human populations will occur along these same waterways. Now what this means to us is this is going to provide everything we need for making fires, producing shelters, finding medicines and foods. Of course, there's water here. And now this riparian will help us spot waterways from afar. If you can get to an elevated point, and remember that water runs in lines and pools in circles, when you see these bright shades of greens running in canyons and lines and pooling in, sitting in circles in green round areas and flat areas, then you know that you've spotted a riparian zone and that you can head toward it and find everything you need to survive. Now when it comes down to specific species of trees and specific types of wood to be used for the bow and drill fire maker, one of my favorite trees to teach is the willow tree, or Salix. That comes in many species and occurs in many forms across the globe and pretty much grows on any continent that trees grow on. It could be found in deserts, actually it's called the desert willow, and it could be found in high mountains. Okay, and willow is really easy to identify. For one, it only grows in the riparian. Salix, the genus that willow is Greek for near water. Now you'll see that its long, flexible branches can be bent easily into a hoop. Whenever you see these green branches, they should be able to easily bend into a hoop with no cracking. Okay. It has a simple pinnate leaf, slender, simple pinnate leaf, which we'll explain here in a second. Also, when you break it, you'll see the bark peels off in strips. Okay? And now that bark is actually strong and flexible enough to be woven into cordage. And now what a pinnate leaf is, if you'll see here, can you see my canvas here okay? Okay, great. Now the willow leaf will be slender. Sometimes it will be long, sometimes it will be short, but it will always be a slender leaf. Now a simple pinnate leaf means that it has one primary vein running down the center with small veins going out to the side like so. Now that's different from, let's say, a palmate leaf, which will generally be more broad like a maple leaf and will have several large veins like fingers, palmate, with small veins coming off to the sides of them. Now, once again, the key identifying characteristics of the willow tree, or Salix, is the slender, simple pinnate leaf, the flexible branches that easily bend into a hoop without breaking, the fact that it always grows in the riparian, and that the bark peels off in strips. Once you have that, you can be almost certain you'll have willow, and it very, very reliably produces coals, and it's generally very easy to form your kit of this. So, no matter where you're watching this from, there's a good chance that you have willow in a creek bed nearby. A really great feature of willow is it has a special way of letting you know when its branches are just ready to be used as a drill. And that's by turning just a bit red. Let's check these out. Do you see these branches here? This deep red tone? The bark is still smooth. It's still in high quality. The string can slide across it without tearing it. Now we'll get one of these branches. We'll find a 7 to 10 inch straight as a board piece. We'll sight it from a couple angles, because remember, any bend is going to be a high-speed wobble. It's like we'll get one or two off this. Now remember to always get at least 3 drills from different trees so you know you're going to have success. Any one of these drills could have a weak spot, a pin knot, something like that in it. It could snap on you. It may not react well with your baseboard, so you want to get several different drills. So we're going to look around for a few more and we'll show processing this.
So once you've found a drill you're happy with, it's time to prepare it. Now I'm going to use a Victorinox Swiss Army knife. They're the only Swiss Army knives I use. And I'm going to saw through the straightest piece of this, this branch here. I'm going to slice it from several different angles all along the branch to find the straightest section to make sure there's no wobbles. Okay. And then I'm going to use my saw. And the thing is, once you find a good piece, you don't want to saw part of the way and break it. If you break it, you run the risk of splitting down into the usable part of the drill. And these can take quite a long time to find, so you don't want to split your drill. So I'm just going to take my time and lightly saw this. Now of course, if you don't have a knife, you could do this with a sharp rock. We also teach stone knapping, but that's going to be for another lesson, okay? There we go. Get toward the top of my drill here. Now make sure none of your body parts are in line with the cut. You can always step on this on a stump or something like that, but this is real lightweight and easy to carve. Now I have my straight, approximately 7-inch drill, a little smaller than my forefinger, pencil drill, thin as possible but won't break. That's what makes this willow, when it's cured with this red color, it is just exceptionally strong. It is in its strongest form, and this can really hold a lot of weight. You're going to see me leaning on this quite a bit, and it's going to take every bit of that weight and then some. So we're going to go ahead and put this to use and make a fire. So with our bow, we really want to keep it simple. It really just has to be 18 to 24 inches long, bent enough so when the string is completely across, you have at least 2 to 3 inch gap. And if you don't have a knife, you want a lot of these little branches here, because instead of carving a groove for your string to sit in so it doesn't slide down, you can hook it on these little branches. And it has to be dead. The branch has to be dead. If you use a live branch, it has the potential to bend as you're bowing and drilling, and any bend is going to steal from your downward force. You want all the force being translated to the tip of the drill. So if you don't have any bend in your branch, you're not losing any force. So I do have a knife. So I'm going to go ahead and saw this off, and we'll get started on making this into a nice little device. So now that we have our bow trimmed to length, which is roughly fingertip to shoulder, you can go slightly shorter, but I wouldn't go any longer than that because you'll have unnecessary length and weight. We're going to go ahead and affix the cord. Now in an emergency situation, you can weave your cord from natural materials, but you don't want the first cord you've ever wove, or even the one of the first dozen cords you've ever woven, ropes or strings you've ever woven, to be one used for the bow drill. It's going to take a very finely woven, very well done piece of cordage, because any little piece of fringe sticking out can just start getting caught on the drill and getting torn apart. So what I always recommend for people to do is to use the bottom 4 to 5 inches of their t-shirt, not your shoelace that'll tear apart, burst in half really quickly, of your shirt, and twist it into one piece of cordage if you're in an emergency situation. For a practice bow drill, for you to get this technique down and get some success, we always recommend this cordage here. This is called P cord, or parachute cord. P cord for short. It's also called 550 cord or 50 cord for short. This is in heavy use by military and fire alike, and it's a very high tensile strength cord. It contains several strands of nylon cordage, 7 to 8 depending on if it's military or not, with an outer sheath. So with this 500-foot roll, I really have 7 innards with 1 outer. So a 500-foot roll really times 8 is about 4,000 feet of string when it comes to it. But this really good powerful cordage is strong enough for the bow and drill. So the wilderness survival knots that I teach have 2 principles. They need to be very easy to remember to tie so you don't forget it in a survival situation, and they have to use the least amount of cordage possible. By cordage I mean string or rope now, okay? Cordage is a generic term for string, rope, or twine. Now it also has to be require the least amount of cordage possible, because you may have to improvise the cordage and make it. So we're going to keep this real easy. We need one side to be affixed very firmly. And we want our knots on the inside of the bow, so the string travels on the inside of the bow just like it's a bow you're going to shoot with an arrow.
So I'm gonna have Alex get this in frame here. Okay, and we're gonna start with the square knot, which is just right over top of left, just like tying your shoes here, see? Squeeze tight. See, I've made a groove with my Swiss knife here with the saw feature. You can use a blade as well, sharp rock, for this bead cord to hold in. You can also use hooks off the branches and such, but it has to be affixed on there well. You can't just tie it with a knot. See, left over right, right over left. See? Or else it'll slide down. So right over left, left over right. And now we'll just do that with the rest of the slack so it stays firm. Now our second knot has to be very easy to untie, and that's because each drill is going to require a certain amount of tension based on its diameter, and it's not going to spin properly until you have the string tension just right. If the string is too loose, the string will travel around the drill without spinning it. If the drill is too tight, it will not spin at all. You won't be able to push it forward. So we have to find that Goldilocks principle, that just right. So what we're going to do is I'm going to bring this cordage straight down, and I'm going to come around the branch there. See that little groove I put in it? And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hook this rope. Okay, I'm just going to go around it here. That's called a half hitch. See how it grabs the round object now? It's grabbing that object. I'm just going to give it one more wrap. And to make this easy to tie, I'm just going to come 3 times through the middle. 3 overhand knots. You ready? See? Just pull it through the middle. Not once. Can't get away from civilization. Not twice. But 3 times. Now, if I start to try and drill and this is too loose, all I do is I take my slack and I just hook the rope again, pull it tight, give it a wrap and tie it off. Now this excess here, I can't just have this flapping. I'm not going to cut it either, because I may get a fire with this bow drill, and then I can take this apart, perhaps use it as a snare, use it to tie my shelter together. Okay, so we don't want to cut cordage if we don't have to. So what I'm going to do is just wrap this down the branch to form a little handle or what have you, but just to get it out of the way so it's not dancing around and hitting my tinder. Now after I'm done wrapping that, I like to point out the tension here. You want it not so, there should be no sag here. It shouldn't be so loose that there's sag, but it shouldn't be so tight that it's like a guitar string. There should be a little bit of resonance. See how it bounces there? Just bounces a little, but it shouldn't be like a guitar string where it makes a note. See that? Can you hear that? Hear the difference? See that? Okay, now this is going to wrap around our drill really well. Perfect.